Hello, and welcome. Coming to you from a jazz club at the Continental, I'm Josh.
And I'm John, and it's hard to drink this Blanton's when you're full of bullet holes.
Yeah, you might want to see the doctor. I hear he's in 24/7. But this is the Geek ETC podcast, where we dive into all things you can geek out about.
So,
Howdy.
howdy.
How you doing?
I'm okay. Tired.
Yeah, I hear that. I feel that.
You feeling it?
I'm feeling it, hearing it.
So today we're going to be talking about starting out with, obviously, from the title and everything, what we're going to be geeking out about, and we'll do that thing here in a second. But we do want to pay homage to an actor,
yes,
who recently passed, and so we want to pay some homage to Lance Reddick, who passed away just a few days ago.
yes.
And
he played a very important role in one of the things we're going to be talking about, so it just seemed appropriate to bid farewell to such a good actor in the realm of media, TV shows, movies,
and
video games.
A fellow geek. Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
I guess he's in Destiny 2.
Yes, he's a big character in there.
And from what I understand, he was actually a big Destiny 2 player.
Oh,
Apparently, some of the folks actually found that his account, like the night before he passed, had been online playing Destiny 2. Which
really?
is, how cool is that,
Oh, wow.
So
I did see, too, that there was a lot of players that his, character that he played in the game, the NPC is, stationed in a place in the map somewhere. I'm not exactly sure. I haven't played that Destiny 2. But a ton of characters went to see his character and kind of had a little, almost kind of a funeral remembrance thing, and crowded around his character in the game and held a little homage to him in the game, which I thought was pretty cool.
that is that doesn't happen with a lot of actors, voice actors,
No.
where people, Lance, his voice is such a recognizable thing. Obviously, I think you and I have watched a lot of different shows. You were talking about The Fringe that he was in, but earlier before we started recording, I've never seen that. But I bet you've never seen Bosch or The Wire.
I haven't seen those. Yeah, and he's one of those two characters with a lot of voice actors, especially too, that I'm sure they've been in he's done voices in tons of things I've played or seen that have no idea.
That's
thing.
true.
A lot of those voice actors like that take part in lots of different media, lots of video game stuff that, you'd never know unless you looked up their IMDb.
Well, he made a great cop, and especially he made a great, upper level police chief or major, that kind of cop. So in The Wire, he was a command staff level guy, I think. And just his voice and his kind of snobbiness towards it, you could see that he was, he just has that intimidation factor to subordinates, and especially Bosch too. In Bosch, he plays the chief of police for LA.
Oh, really?
And it's a really good show. It's a good detective show. It's probably one of the better detective shows that's been done.
What network was that on?
Amazon.
Oh, that was an Amazon.
It's a book. It's a book series, and Amazon picked it up. And so he's in that, and he plays the chief of police. And then the Harry Bosch is a detective in the show who had starred as a actor a couple times and had written a book that had been published. So he's got a nice house in Beverly Hills, but he's still an LAPD detective.
Okay.
And he had been on their SWAT team, and apparently he had military service as well, where he had been Green Beret or something, of course, obviously. And so, and then it's got a really good second, supporting actor role. Forget what the character's name is, but he's a Haitian dude, and there's actually some really good side story that goes off on, but they play really well off each other. And then Lance Reddick's police chief is so scary, he's manipulative a little bit, but he's not a bad guy, but he's got his ambitions there.
Okay.
And so he eventually tries to become mayor. So sometimes he's helping Bosch out way more than he should. Sometimes he's trying to put Bosch in chill Bosch out a little bit. But he's just that deep, dark, that deep voice,
Right.
And the way he carries himself.
Very commanding.
Very commanding. And I loved it.
That's awesome. Well, yeah. He will be missed for his talents for sure. Um, obviously, and I've heard that there's a handful of more media things to come out in the coming, months and years, even that will have him in it as well. I don't remember if there's some video game I saw. I forget what they were.
I think it's one of the Horizon games, right?
But yeah, he is in that as well. In the Horizon Forbidden West and Zero Dawn. I don't know if it might have been DLC for Forbidden West, maybe, or some expansion or something. But yeah, he's gonna be part of that. And then I think there was some TV show or movie also coming out that he was gonna have some role in as well. That had already finished wrapping the filming and stuff. I forget what it was though. It was a handful of days ago when I just heard someone passively mention it.
Oh my God, his name in Bosch was Chief Irving. Now, not very original book writer, but
wow,
that's like kind of funny. What is The Fringe about? Because I've not heard of it before.
It's a kind of
I know you said J.J. Abrams directed it.
Yeah, he directed it. It's kind of follows the tropes of your standard kind of like crime drama sort of deal, but it has a very paranormal aspect to it. It deals with things like mythology and similar kind of stuff of Lost, X-Files.
So it's like X-Files adjacent.
Yeah, it's kind of a more modern take, right? A newer version of those type of shows.
Well, who did he play on that?
I didn't see a lot of it. I just know my mom watched it. I think my wife maybe saw some of the episodes. So I've kind of just seen it in passing.
It'd be funny if he was another police chief or FBI director.
Right.
Because that's just like that's just the voice. You know what I was just thinking though? His voice and like the way that he seems like such a calm, cool, and collected person when he's acting. I think it's such a disappointment. I would have we talked about in Star Wars how much we wanted to see a High Republic show. And imagine him in some brown robes as a Jedi, like because imagine him on the Jedi Council and like the High Republic. He would have been amazing.
That would have been sick.
Yeah, like he would have been so good at that.
To bring that kind of commanding sort of thing into like a Jedi Master of some kind.
Because the way he played the police chief in Bosch, it would have been he was very calculated, very ambitious, but he also would keep people from doing things that they were ambitious about if it was going to mess with him. And so you could see like in the High Republic when the Sith threat isn't as big or whatever, that he could play a role where he's kind of like, keeping them from going too far into it. Maybe,
right.
Kind of keeping them from doing the things that they want to do, but also still a good guy, but just not going to like, which is kind of how they were with the Jedi Council, in the prequels, honestly. They didn't
That's a good
really
point.
Good job.
Huh.
Yoda kind of dropped the ball.
A little bit. Dropped it the foot that he would have dropped the ball.
Yeah, exactly.
Because he's short.
Yeah, that's true. He is a short fella.
Very much so. But yeah, so rest in peace.
Yeah, Lance Reddick, you'll be missed. And I'm definitely going to watch some more Bosch, and I'll try to make it through The Wire again. Even though The Wire is a great show, it's a little dated. Like the first season's pretty good, and the second season does not do as well, and then it picks back up.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely going to be watching some of his stuff in remembrance, and hope y'all are too. And he was part of a really big series, really big movie series. We're talking about today because today we're geeking out about
John Wick.
Baba Yaga,
right?
Baba Yaga,
the Boogeyman. Man. I heard he once killed 3 men with a pencil.
I've heard that too.
Yeah, it's been a rumor going around.
So I really like John Wick. I know you do too. Like we are, we love action movies, and we love like really well done movies.
I was gonna say I'm looking forward to seeing him, Lance's portrayal of his character in.
Hopefully, imagine he's in it.
Is
he in? Okay, good. Yeah. All right, very good. Yeah,
I'm pretty sure I saw him in one of the trailers or something.
Yeah, it's funny because in that acting range, going back to Lance Reddick for a second, in that acting range, he plays such a commanding boss man. I'm the boss, and then he's kind of like just the clerk, at the Continental, the concierge at the Continental. He doesn't really have that much power over anything, and he plays that really well too.
Right,
kind of like a more subservient, like like I'm
kind of Thelma side character sort of thing.
Yeah,
but yeah, he gets some stuff done though.
And yeah, he does. Didn't what he used? Did he shoot some folks in episode
In the third one.
in the third one? That's right. Yeah, yeah. So John Wick, assassin for this hitman assassin cartel thing, right? Like
It almost kind of gives like, you know, it's a worldwide crime syndicate.
Yeah.
And not even necessarily, I guess, crime, but just,
Well, they are.
I mean, yeah, they kill people and assassinate people, I guess. So yeah, I guess it would be a crime syndicate.
Well, I think I think that, like, it's like a crime syndicate. Like, obviously, I think there's like 12 families, and there's a place called the High Table, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's like the governing body, like the Illuminati of
Right.
that crime syndicate. So I imagine they do all like the typical bad guy things. Like they have the packages wrapped in tape full of white powder, and they,
Right.
they fence cars or they do whatever. So they make their money that way. But then there's
Yeah.
just so many assassins, and they're all involved.
I
There's
guess
all these
that's just to
hitmen.
keep everybody in check too, because again, at any moment, anybody, anywhere, within a couple minutes, there's probably someone near you that could get the buzz on their phone. They look at it and they have a picture of your face,
Well, it sure
and
seems
now
like that.
now you're their target.
It sure seems like that, since like when the people do get the buzz, like you see it in the movies,
Yeah.
they're like, oh man, like every other person's got a phone on them. I
Yeah.
love the mystique of that world. I love that it's alternate universe, really.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, it is.
Because when you watch it originally, when you watch the first one, right, we see him looking sad because his wife dies from cancer, and then she gets him a puppy dog, right, and he
Yeah.
loves the puppy dog. Who doesn't love puppy dogs?
Yeah, cute little beagle.
Cute little beagle Daisy, R.I.P. baby Daisy, because then what's old, God, what's his name? Theon Greyjoy from
Oh, yeah.
from Game of Thrones comes in, and he just really
Being a
wants
punk.
that muscle car, right? And they try
His
to teach him a
Mustang.
lesson. And I like that it's a revenge movie. Everybody likes revenge movies because they make so many of them, right?
Right.
But whenever I see someone, once they realize, once the leader, Vigo or whatever his name is, realizes what they've done, he's like, that was that was somebody, that was nobody. He wasn't a nobody. That's that's Baba Yaga.
That was John Wick's car.
Yeah. And they're like, oh, this guy's such a bad guy. Like, he's a bad A guy, right? Like, he
Yeah.
can kill everybody. Whenever movies do that, sometimes it takes me out of it a little bit
Yeah.
because it's so overdone.
Right.
It's always overdone. Like you see that with like The Equalizer, or you see that with what's the one with Bob Odenkirk, like Nobody, I think.
Oh, right.
Like it's always just like, it's like some guy and I just want to be left alone, right?
Yeah.
But that's like the whole thing with him. His thing is like a little bit more impressive because, or it's a little bit more compelling for me because, he got out of the life for his wife, who then dies after like only 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
And then now he's having to like go back in, and then he keeps having to do task upon task.
Yeah.
And
the only thing he wants is to not be in that life.
It's what he wants, but then
Yeah.
it's the only thing he knows. And it does a better job of that being the only thing he knows than other things. Like you watch History of Violence with Viggo Mortensen or whatever. Like, I like that one because he really, really, really tries not to get back into it. But then he shows up, and then people talk about him. People always like, oh, that's the guy. That's the really bad dude. That's the
Watch
tough.
out for him. Yeah.
But in this world, there's so many tough dudes.
Yeah.
Right?
There's lots of people like him.
There are lots of people like him. And in the first one, we don't get as much story building, but they did such a good job when they set
kind
it
of
up.
built a little bit of a foundation just on John's character.
In the Continental.
Yeah, and then there's just a little bit of teasing of here and there. There's this idea of the Continental and the High Table and such, but they kind of just did a little bit of it, and then it wasn't until the second one where they like add all the exposition for the Continental and the High Table, and that there's there are continentals all over the world, and it's much bigger and much grander than we initially thought it was.
Yeah, and like even when he opens up, so after his dog dies, and he's like, oh, well, time to break out the gats again, and then he, for some reason, he poured a slab of concrete on it. He breaks through that. Maybe just a trapdoor would have worked, John Wick, but maybe it was just too easy to get to it, or whatever.
Maybe it was one of those that he committed to sealing that part of his life away. It may have been more just significance or symbolism for himself, kind of thing. That I'm pouring the concrete and I'm sealing this part of my life away forever, and it's just there. But maybe because he is so smart with, the mindset that it is also just concrete, and I do also just have a sledgehammer, here in my downstairs work area, just in case.
Well, you just sold me on that. The fact that he sealed it off is that is a very
symbolic,
like gesture there.
right?
So
that's
like
how
that.
I took that. Is that he was just putting the slab over it to seal that part of his life away.
I was just like, that's a lot of work. I wouldn't have done that because I'm too lazy. But
yeah,
I'm also
that shows me he didn't have any intention on pulling that stuff back out.
That's a good point. That is a very good point. And it's almost like he's reaching down into his soul when he does it. When he pulls it out and you see all the weapons, we get that a lot. We see that in Jason Bourne. We see that in there's always like a box full of cool guns. His guns are really cool though. Like they're actually like people that like guns like his guns, right?
Yeah.
Like they're very well like, oh, that's like if I was going to have an assassin gun, I would set my guns up like that.
Yeah.
I would have that Walther. I would have that.
It's not some gun. Really fictional kind of just over dramatized weapon of some kind or whatnot. That you look at it and you're like, oh, that's all just real actual stuff. It's highly modified and precision and high quality gear and weapons and things, but it's real stuff.
Yeah, that's because that's one thing I didn't like about. I don't hate it, but when I see it in a movie, I'm like, well, it's just a pistol and a silencer. You know what I'm saying? Like,
right. Or you see they have some pistol or something, but you can tell there's like some plastic overmolding or piece or something that they put on it to make it look like some spacey kind of deal or whatever. I'm like, I can tell that's. You had actually mentioned to me before we recorded too that a good instance of something like that was the AK-47. In Andor.
Yeah. I'm a huge Star Wars Andor.
That's kind of, I guess, the opposite, that there's a future space thing, but it's just a basic.
Yeah, and Star Wars did that really well, where they made their guns like not like over the top, like they were real guns that were heavily modified.
In the fictional world of Star Wars, like looking at it, obviously blasters aren't real stuff, but in their world and their stuff, you could look at it and you're like, okay, that makes sense.
Feels like it has weight to it, that kind of thing. I'm a huge Andor apologist. I love Andor. It's one of my favorite Star Wars show. I love it, love it, love it, love it. The only thing I really had an issue with the whole time was the fact that they had like an AK-47. And that was not modified that well. It looked like a new, not even like an old school AK. It was like a new black like furniture AK-47
right,
or a
like
74.
an AK-104 or something.
And I was like, that disappointed me. But for when John Wick also pulls that slab out, we also see all those gold coins in there.
Yeah, there's like stacks and stacks of gold coins.
And I think I was like, oh, that's interesting. Gold, kind of interesting way to do it, whatever. But then as we go along, as this world building has progressed, it turns out like the gold doesn't really have any monetary value.
Yeah, it's not really.
It's for
the value of the gold itself.
It's not for the value of the gold. It is for the like a social. It's like a social like interaction. Like that's what the coin has to do with. It's like the idea of like connection, right? And so the people that within this, people within this have it. Yeah, it's almost like a connection.
It's a symbolism kind of thing that like if somebody has if they somehow have one of these coins, that they're in on stuff.
Exactly, and they can pay you with it, and you understand like it's a connection based thing.
Granted, I did think I looked up one time like someone tried to figure out what in real gold to USD conversion, like what one of those coins would be worth. Like I don't exactly remember what it was, but I thought it was like $10,000 or something though. So it still ain't nothing to shake a stick at.
No, they're big like tokens like you would get at a casino or something like that. They're decent sized. Yeah. But that's what it's all about. It's like it's the idea of the connection. So the gold coins aren't necessarily like there's not like a real like people aren't going to the store and using it to buy bread and then
it's not your like Sacagawea or like
your gold dollar,
the gold dollar sort of thing.
Yeah, it's all about the connection, like being in that world. Once you're in the world, once you're in the game, this is like one of the things you give over as like a connection for it. Yeah, and I thought that was really cool because that's in the first one, and I wonder if they even had that fully fleshed out. If they just had ideas about what they wanted to do for number 2 and number 3 and number 4, right? And when you get the when you see it later on, you start to understand it a little bit more. It's so cool. It's there. And I'm guessing what I would assume is they didn't really have it all fleshed out. except that he gives it over. And you're like, oh, it's just a gold coin, but it gets really well fleshed out later. I think that's
they really dive into that, and they there's a small little scene on one of the rooftops, where they're talking about making more gold coins and how they are passable as real ones and stuff, and they're like, I think they're like replicas, and so but they were like wanting to circulate them out in their kind of in the populace and stuff. So I guess there's even a counterfeiting thing with the gold coins themselves.
It doesn't seem like a smart idea in a crime syndicate full of assassins.
I mean, hey.
But then a lot of people try to take on John Wick too, and
that doesn't seem like a smart idea either.
It does not. He does not. It's not smart. It's not a smart thing to do.
No.
So he gets his guns, gets his gold, goes to town, does his thing, says, "I'm back." Yeah. And it's fun to see, and it's fun to see. Like he starts having to do the same thing over and over. He winds up he's back to kill. And
you can see though, I do like how they keep some of the realism to it, where you can it almost portrays that he has been out of it for a while, because some of the stuff is a little sloppy.
The first one,
and like even through all of them, I like that this theme carries about that he doesn't just like Neo style, like Kung Fu Matrix, like just or instantly take people down without breaking a sweat, or with no with just ultimate ease, taking them down, the fake Steven Seagal style, kind of deal,
like Hop Keto kind. Well, I think that like the Matrix, that was a product of like the 1990s, like karate and taekwondo were such a big deal.
Then that was the whole, they're in a fake world, so you can do anything.
That's true too. But for those like they're not like necessarily the best real world martial arts. And now now that it's become more prevalent, you have things like the UFC where people are fighting. And
jiu-jitsu's become so much more relevant and everything.
But a big BJJ practitioner here. But so when you see that, I do like he brought the Machado brothers in, right? Yeah. He's got the Machado brothers. He trained sambo. He trained judo. I love seeing the picture of him and his jiu-jitsu gi with a white belt on. You know, and it's just
that's awesome. Then you're like, oh, you're legit training. And I've seen a handful of clips too of like behind the scenes of him. Practicing the choreography with some of the fight scenes, and when I saw one the other day or something of behind the scenes for the new one for John Wick 4. Oh, also, full disclosure, this episode so John Wick 4 comes out, I believe, this Friday, and so this is pre-recorded, so we're recording this right before it comes out.
We've not seen it.
Yeah, we haven't seen it, but by the time this episode comes out, I will have seen it.
And we'll have a full review, yeah.
So I may, at some point, insert my opinion or review in this episode.
Okay.
I may do that. Actually, yeah, I'll input my thoughts about it right here. So welcome to my past, future self. We'll go with that. I saw John Wick 4 yesterday with a few friends. Initial reactions or reviews, I guess, and I'll try to keep this as spoiler-free as possible for anyone who hasn't seen it yet. I really liked it. I definitely think it may have been the best out of the 4, as all the reviews are saying. The action was definitely ramped up, for sure. It had some of the best action scenes I've seen in a movie to date, I would say, confidently. And a good mix of action. Some good gunplay on that front, good kind of driving action scenes, fighting in the streets, your kind of high sort of fast, martial arts kind of action, with the implementation of one of the new characters played by Donnie Yen. He was really good in the movie. I feel like the story was well thought out, and I will, again, not go too in-depth into that for spoiler reasons. I will just say I liked what they did with the story. It was a little rough when we saw Lance Reddick in the movie, his character as the concierge of the New York Continental. His part, even in this movie, was still masterfully done. So props to him. I really liked the locations of the movie. I mean, we see this in the trailers, particularly part of it takes place in Japan. It was really awesome watching that because I saw it with my wife, and we were both pointing out places that we had seen in some of the videos we've been watching about Japan. They were like, "Oh, we recognize that billboard or that part of town or this monument." So that was kind of cool to see some things that we both had recognized. Overall, I would definitely give it an A plus if I had to give it a rating of some kind. I will definitely be watching it a few more times. I don't know if I'll see it in the theater again. Depends, but definitely when it comes out for rental or streaming, I will watch it a few more times because there's a few of the action scenes that I would like to maybe, go over a little slower and kind of dissect them a little bit. But yeah, it was good. Go see it. Alrighty, let's go back to my past self.
Interesting.
And we're back.
That's interesting. Okay. Well, cool.
So, from going back into the past where I am now, before I've seen it, I have heard that it is the best one.
I've heard it's the best action, one of the best action movies ever done.
Yeah, it's not only like the best John Wick, but it's one of the best, like action movies in general of our time.
And I can think of a lot of action movies.
Yeah.
I can think of a lot of action movies. And the fact that some people have said John Wick 4 is, which is something you don't get a lot. Usually when we get to the fourth iteration of something.
Yeah, for real. By the time, usually in a third one, it's going downhill.
Yes.
And so, yeah, like the first one will be good. The second one will often kind of build on, what was good from it. And then they try to just take it too far by the third one, and it kind of goes downhill after that.
So the fact that they've got, that also speaks to like a labor of love where sometimes I worry, and we've talked about this a lot of times on the Geek ETC podcast, where people have got greedy. And so they don't put as much effort in because they know we're just going to consume the product because it has a name we like. John Wick 4 would still sell a bunch of tickets, even if it was garbage, just because people want to see John Wick 4. The fact that people are saying John Wick 4 is the best ever means that people are really, like the people that are doing it have some type of like labor of love from it. And I think one of the executive producers is actually a stuntman who worked with with Keanu Reeves in The Matrix, right?
Yes, yeah. There was one of the guys that worked with him in that has worked with him for many years.
Was a stunt double in The Matrix.
Yeah. Came over and worked with him in John Wick stuff.
Well, he's one of the he's like a boss man too.
Yeah.
Like he's one of the boss men.
So they have a really good relationship between them.
I was watching a clip with Keanu, and he was this is just going on talking about stunt people for a second. Keanu was like asked like, "What do you think is your most like? Do you like doing stunts?" And Keanu was like, "I don't do stunts. I just do action." And I was like, oh, I get it, because I think Keanu Reeves has such a deep respect for stuntmen because we know, like in the Matrix movies, he gave a lot of money to stunt folks,
right, out
of his actual salary. And I imagine, I don't know for sure, but it sounds like he probably gave some bonuses to people in John Wick or something like that.
Right.
But he also does a ton of his own action. He's obviously training.
He gets out there and trains. Like a lot of people have seen, all the circulated videos of him with
at Terran
Tactical running the course of fire with the pistols and the rifles and stuff, and pinging all the targets and everything, and that's always cool for a shareable clip.
It is, and so it's super neat that he does that. I think, but when he said like I'm not a stunt person, I was like, oh, he's humble enough to be like, I'm not one of those guys. Like those guys are out there putting their body on the line.
Yeah,
they're
putting their lives at risk.
Underused people get killed as stunt folks. And I think he like. Some actors are like, I do my own stunts, right? But they don't do all of them, right? They still have stunt folks occasionally, unless you're Tom Cruise. But Tom Cruise is like an immortal being, held up by the Church of Scientology or whatever. So,
for a lot of people, the insurance on the film wouldn't let the main actors do their stunts.
Yeah,
because it'd be a liability kind of thing.
It just sounded like to me when Keanu answered that question, I was like, oh, to me, Keanu will like never say that he does his own stunts or is a stunt person, because those things that need to be stunts are done by stunt folks, and he doesn't do those. I think he has such a great respect, and that was like, oh, well, good guy Keanu, of course.
Yeah, there you go. The meme came from somewhere.
It did. It really did. Gotta love that guy.
Yeah.
So I love, especially like all the jiu-jitsu scenes, obviously all the rolling, and like, as a Brazilian jiu-jitsu practitioner, people talk about, so there's gi jujitsu, which is the kimono, right?
Yeah.
That you see like in judo,
Yeah.
right? It's the same exact gi essentially. And there's no gi jujitsu, which is more wrestling
Right.
look. It's got more of a wrestling look to it, where you got shorts. And,
Yeah, they often
and
have the kind of
rash guard.
compression rash guards. And
got a
stuff.
rash guard that you wear. Then you got your shorts, and I usually wear spats or whatever. Wearing my spats right now from training today.
Oh yeah.
So, they're wearing those things, and people will say, well, you hear some people who are like, I don't like gi jujitsu because it's not realistic, but people wear clothes because there's a lot of chokes and there's a lot of stuff in that.
Yeah.
And you see that sometimes with him where he's using people's jackets and lapels to actually, that's what's
choke
about
out.
the Machado brothers. The Machado brothers, obviously, they're very good at jujitsu, period. But, they have a lot of good, really gi jujitsu. So it's fun seeing him do like chokes and like these kind of the more judo throws that you see from that, on top of like actual wrestling moves and other things like big throws. I like that, like the martial arts geek in me for that, as a practitioner, as somebody that enjoys, competing. That's why I like seeing.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, that there is a good amount of, even beyond the shooting and stuff, the hand-to-hand combat of just like wrestling a knife away from somebody and it being a struggle. And getting cut up a little bit in the process, it not just being like you just, ninja karate chop it out of their hand and then, hit them in the throat or whatever. Like you're like grabbing the wrist and he's like, trying to rip the knife out of their hands and then stabbing them with it, kind of stuff.
Oh yeah. Brutal. I love that.
It's
too.
a very brutal movie. If you haven't seen it and, you're interested in it, but you're kind of squeamish, there's definitely a handful of parts that are a little tough to watch.
Oh, I like in the first one, there's the big jack dude, the big jacked Russian dude that comes at him in the hot tub area, like in the sauna, and John hits him like 3 or 4 times.
He does like a zipper drill and just
he shoots him 3 or 4 times with a pistol in the chest, and the guy kind of seizes up, and John doesn't have time for that, so he just puts one right through the nose, blows out the back of his head, and
he just falls backwards.
Yeah, he falls backwards, and John's moving all along,
Yeah, and then lots of multiple instances, like I said, with pencils that are pretty rough, but hey, I mean, it would work.
Yeah, it would. You put a pencil through somebody's ear canal into their brain, that'll kill them. That won't.
Ew.
Most likely, that'll kill them.
Yeah.
It'd be cool if you could break it. All the splinters could go in there.
Oh man.
It probably would.
Or what if it was, like like a lead pencil? You stick it in, and then you just start clicking the eraser over and over again, and it's very slowly starts to.
What if that was it? What if that was because was it the first or second one he kills somebody with the pencil, and it's a throwback to Vigo saying, "I want some kill him with a pencil," right? And then imagine like in the third or the fourth one, he's got him down, and he's just clicking a mechanical pencil, clicking it through like a guy's nose. And then it breaks, and then he just pulls his hand back and stabs him in the eye.
Right. Or one of those old
IRS guys. We'll write stuff for you.
Yeah. Those pencils that used to have the little inserts that there was 9 of them in the thing.
Yeah.
And once it eventually got dull, you would take it out and put it in the back of it,
and
it would push the next one out. And so he just has a pocket full of those little things and just sticks them in the back until it just overflows.
That would be a good that'd be a really one of those poorly done YouTube videos where it's just a white, it's like a white circle type person, like a stick figure. But they're obviously playing that character. That would be a funny gif of that, like him.
True.
Just shoving those in.
Those over and over again.
Hilarious.
That's pretty good. So yeah, the hand-to-hand combat is superior, and it keeps your attention, and it's one of the best. I liked some of the combat in, Jason Bourne. That was one of the back when that came out. That kind of caught me in a similar way.
It was gritty. There was some grit. There was definitely some grit
and
to
stuff.
it.
And some of the fight scenes, like that one fight scene I remember, I think it was in the second one. They're just in a small little bathroom, and he's got a bath towel, a hand towel, and wrapping it around his arms, kind of stuff, and then slamming his head into the bathroom sink, kind of thing, or the toilet or something. And it's just it's very brutal and very rough and everything, but I think they did a good job. But similarly, I think that they did a great job in the John Wick series with that combat.
Well, Jason Bourne's scary because it's the CIA might be actually out there doing this kind of thing, but we know for sure that there's not a high council assassin guild.
You say that.
I do. I got rid of all of them.
Oh my gosh.
But so we know that that doesn't exist because not every other person's an assassin. I've seen the homeless folks around here. They're not.
No, yeah, they're around here definitely not.
They don't have guns, and they're not like.
Yeah, they don't work for what's his name?
The Bowery King.
Lance Fishburne.
Lawrence Fishburne.
Lawrence Fishburne. Jeez.
Yeah, they're not working for Lawrence Fishburne in our area for sure.
Yeah.
But in Jason Bourne, it's like, oh, this could actually happen. It probably has happened, where the CIA is just out of control and doing stuff for the NSA or whoever. But in this one, it's nice because there's really, I don't even think, is there really cops in the second or third one? Everybody chased them is just bad guys.
I don't, now that you mention it, like it's been a minute since I've seen it, but I don't recall like any cops.
The first one, I'm pretty sure in episode, like the first one, the cop comes to his house after he kills like the
initial that cop, shows up there. He's just like, you working again?
Yeah.
Kind of looking past him and everything all right in here. Obviously the police know who John Wick is and know what he does.
Yep.
And
that lends itself to being like, oh, this is kind of like a self-regulating thing. And that's probably the reason why it has such a like hierarchy and like Illuminati type thing.
Right.
It's just like, with like the Mexican drug cartels, for example, like there's something to not getting that much attention. Like they killed those 2 Americans recently, a few weeks ago, and the Mexican drug cartel sent an apology, and then they put together like all the dudes these are the guys responsible for it from their own thing. Which maybe they were. I don't know if anything actually happened to them or whatever, but they did that because killing certain people is not good for business, and that's another thing. When John Wick is running and gunning and blasting and shooting, he is not killed. Like there's no people getting hit by stray bullets.
No, he's like, he follows the 4 firearm safety rules.
Yeah, he always knows what's beyond his target, and he never. I don't think there's been a scene in the show, and I think that's one of the things that kind of dulls us to it because they're getting in gunfights in crowds of people more than once.
Heavily crowded people, lots of clubs and bathhouses and all that.
My dude's at the Red Rock or whatever, like he's at an open concert and he's, shooting people in these really close up gunfights, and no bystanders are getting hit. And I think that makes it more palatable for us too to watch such a violent movie, that as long as no good people.
Yeah, at least there's only the bad guys. Only the bad guys got brutally shot in the face.
Brutally blowing out the back of their skulls and stuff. Man, so the gunplay, let's talk about that.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, moving beyond the hand-to-hand combat and stuff into the gunplay and stuff. I got to say, I mean, obviously, me and you both, we've seen lots of movies with guns in them and shooting and stuff. And
we're sticklers, kind of. We like to see like accurate gunplay.
And for most of our lives, it's been, in any movie, and we've watched a bunch of them together, that we're like, well, that's wrong. You're doing that wrong. And I can't help it. Like I tried not to do that when I'm watching movies like with my wife or, some family or whatever kind of thing. But sometimes I can't help it. I'm just like, he just clicked on a safety on a Glock that gun doesn't have a safety.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
And stuff like that. I'm like, oh,
why did he need to cock? Why do I keep hearing the cocking sound?
You see him pull up like an AR and it goes like a shotgun. I'm like, what did you even do?
Well, I was kind of like your gun, like, didn't I kind of get you into like that kind of stuff? We like accurate weapon handling and everything.
You definitely fueled that fire.
I definitely did.
Like I had a little interest in stuff, but our early friendship, you like poured gasoline all over it and lit it up.
Yeah.
Like this is the way.
This is the way.
Yes.
So it is so nice to see, like, obviously they have decent firearms people working on their movies.
Yeah, if it's like such a breath of fresh air. I think that's another reason why I love these movies so much. It's such a breath of fresh air to see the gun stuff, be like, oh, okay, yeah, all that, he's doing stuff right.
Yes. Very, like, they've got so many neat guns.
Yeah, down to the guns themselves are all real stuff. They talk about them and everything, but even like the weapon manipulation, how you would load things. I feel like there's been a handful of scenes too where I've like, just because I'm curious, he would be going through and I would count the rounds that he shot, and then he reloads and I'm like, okay, that was right.
That was right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that should only hold 17 rounds or 18, and if you got one in the chamber, like whatever. Like I think about that all the time. I think about that, especially when he's got like a rifle or something, because really in most movies, ammo doesn't matter until we need a point.
You need a stressful point to happen.
Yes.
Like you need a moment of stress and anxiety to show up, thus, oh no, my gun jammed, or it's clicks, it's out of ammo. So that's the cause for a tense moment to happen in the movie, and not
Mhm.
just like, oh, I'm out, I just got to reload.
Well, that's what I love about it, because he is
Yeah.
constantly reloading, which is every single time he does that, there is a chance for failure, and he
Yeah.
keeps doing it, and it keeps lasting. I know he said his favorite gun was just pistols. He likes pistols
Mhm.
in general. He thinks like they're the most personal
Yeah.
guns to use, and so that was like his favorite personally to use, and it was his favorite for the movie. He thinks John Wick would love
Right.
handguns specifically the most. And
Well, they're, being an assassin or spy and stuff, they're concealable. You can hide them away. Then they're not overt. A lot of this, classiness about being in the Continental stuff, there's a lot of class in it. And so you got to be presentable. You got to be sleek and slim and, fancy looking. And if you've got a freaking Benelli, just hanging out on your back, it doesn't really suit the look.
no, but we do see the Benelli a few times.
Yeah.
But that's another thing. Just the aesthetic of the people in there. Everybody looks good. Everybody's
The fashion and the
dressed
aesthetic
nice.
in these movies is it makes me just want to buy a bunch of dress shirts just because I feel like I'm always like underdressed, like
Yeah.
for daily life. I'm like, man, everybody in here looks good and looks fancy. I'm like, I want to look fancy.
Yeah. Except for like the homeless people, like the Bowery King folks.
Yeah. But that's done with purpose.
That's done with purpose. That's done as like they're the most spy-like out of anybody.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
The seeing like the way everybody looks, like you get this mobster feel without the classic mobster tropes, right?
Oh, interesting.
You get that kind of like mobster feel where everybody's, hey, Vinny, let's dress nice. Hey, I got my suit on.
Yeah.
Like that thing. Nothing against Italian Americans who are mobsters.
Yeah.
Maybe you shouldn't be, but there's something to that. Like like you see that kind of like they're dressed up, but like none of it's like, it's all really nice. It's all like Italian suits. There's no like people with like, there's a few people with the gold chains hanging out, but
yeah, you can tell that it's all like bespoke stuff. I think that's the key, is that anything that like the main characters are wearing is made for them by a tailor or a cobbler or whatever, they make the shoes and things. That it's all bespoke stuff,
and bullet resistant, which is huge
also
too.
aligned with a very flexible bullet resistant lining.
God, that would hurt so bad.
Oh, it would.
That would hurt so bad.
It would break ribs. It would, obviously, I guess the main thing is just to stop the penetration of the bullets, but the impact from that is still going to beat you to crap.
Yeah, it would be debilitating. You take like a 22 caliber pistol round in the liver, and good luck with that.
Yeah.
Like even in like a bullet. Well,
not to mention
if you had a full vest on, like if you had like
yeah.
an actual like level 2 or level 3 vest on, and you took a 22 round, it wouldn't feel like.
No,
but
when they're running around with 45s and those things are thumping into you, yeah, that's going to put you down regardless. And obviously it wouldn't kill you, if you have the right protection, but it's going to debilitate you for sure.
I'm a huge fan of the way that they look, and I'm a huge fan. Like even here's the other thing, even the blades they use.
Oh yeah.
When we talk about, we see them with knives.
Yeah.
Like some of the people with knives, you see them out pulling out like seal pups and like cold steel weapons and
right. They've
like
got microtechs
and like actual interesting knives, not just like, oh, there's a run of the mill fixed blade,
or just a basic fixed blade or K-bar or something, or
the K-bar, like the chef's knife or like anything like that,
or just some basic unknown thing. You look at it, and I mean that's the thing. They did a very it wasn't so subtle, but I didn't mind the like brand plugs that they slipped in there and stuff.
No, I didn't
like he pulls out the microtech, and it's an out the front knife, but you can like see, you can tell what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And like with the same with the Glocks and the Benellis and all that stuff. And but I'm like, cool.
Yeah, they don't make it. It's more palatable. Like I'm saying palatable twice in the show, but it's more palatable for me to see that than like a Coke or a Pepsi.
Right. Well, that's the thing. I don't want to drink Coke or Pepsi and stuff. I'm like, I know that's just full of corn syrup and it's going to kill me, but ooh, that knife's pretty cool. I could have fun, flicking that knife in and out, or going to the range with the gun.
Yeah, exactly. Well, especially those salient arms ones. When you see the cutouts,
yes.
You see some of those pistols. They have those cutouts all over it to lighten the weight. They're most of the guns in the thing in the movies.
Yeah,
a lot of them because Terran Butler, Terran Tactical have their grounding in like competition 3-gun shooting,
yeah.
which is blown up, right? So with all of the internet, all the stuff we have on the internet, it's the same way like, karate and kung fu have kind of like not been as cool, as because people see that they're not really that effective in like an actual combat situation. Right. Because now you see people, you saw Hoist Gracie go out in UFC 1. Like that stuff exists now, right? And the same thing with like weapons. Like, used to, it was like, oh, that guy's got a Beretta. Like every show, it was like a bad guy with a Beretta, Beretta 92. Because the United States Army, that was our standard issue sidearm. And so there were a lot of them for use. There were a lot of them made, and Hollywood had a bunch. So now when you're seeing like these Glocks that are like these competition pistols, I mean, obviously they would work well as anything else, but you see these salient arms. I love the look of like that gold.
The gold lettering and stuff on the black gun.
You can see through the cutout. You see like the gold barrel, like all those. And the gear that he wears, some of the gear he wears is legitimately just 3-gun shooting stuff.
Yeah, all that stuff he has, you can tell that he's was into that speed or that competition stuff, because down to like the loaders for the shotgun shells.
Shotgun, that's what I'm saying. The shotgun shell,
the way he loads it 2 at a time from the bottom,
with
and
that
stuff.
extra one still on the side, so he could do like
just quickly go in.
Yeah. And they don't make shotguns like, I mean, he uses them mainly up close, but they're still like dong dong, like he's doing stuff with it.
It's thumpy.
Like like in real world, like we see shotguns in video games and tabletop RPG and like movies, and a 12 gauge is going like 5 yards, and then past that you're fine. But that's not how
short distance. No,
shotguns don't work like that. There's a reason why the Wehrmacht were like, stop using shotguns in World War I, because they're not. They are devastating.
Yes,
for the most part, and they go out a decent range. You're talking 40 yards with a double lot buck or triple lot buck. You're talking 100+ yards with a 1-inch slug.
Yeah.
And it's fun seeing him use those and manipulate those in ways where like it actually takes some skill. He couldn't, it's not I used to be happy when I just saw somebody hold a gun correctly.
Right.
When I didn't see somebody like hold it with one hand.
I saw a screenshot the other day of a screenshot from The Walking Dead of Michonne holding a 92 Beretta, and it was like the most atrocious looking thing in the planet.
Yeah.
It's just like they got nothing right in that show with that stuff. It's the complete opposite. But
no, and what's the main character? Rick was using like a 44 Magnum.
Python.
He was using like a 357 Magnum. Like that dude would have ran out of ammo so fast. Like, he would have had so much trouble finding 357 Magnum ammo in the apocalypse.
Filling up your speed loaders.
Should have gone to a 9mm, my friend. You should have just switched over to like a 9mm Glock or something like that. You Smith and Wesson, whatever, CZ. But all the guns look really pretty. Like they're all really well done.
Like all the guns are just as nice as the way the people are dressed.
That is true.
It kind of follows that if they're going to have the best bespoke clothing, they're going to have the best bespoke weaponry.
Like the violin player, you see her when she's, I think it's in the second or third one, when
down the subway,
and she's busking, and then she sees the contract. He walks past her, and then she reaches into her violin and pulls out like I'm not sure what kind of gun it is, but it's got a compensator on it.
It's like a little pistol. Yeah,
it's got like a little micro suppressor or compensator on it, and it looks beautiful. Like it's like that's a cool looking gun. Like if you saw that in another movie. I think there used to be like a gun. Wasn't there like a gun website, like a gun IMDb?
Yes. That's
what it's called. Is it gun IMDb?
No, it's like the Internet Movie Weapon Database. Something. Vamp while I look that up. Internet Firearms Movie Database.
Internet Firearms Movie IFMDB, whatever. And it's one of those things where like I remember I would see occasionally on like one show, I'd be like, oh, that's a cool looking gun. So I'd want to know what it was.
Yeah, just to confirm the IMFDB, the Internet Movie Firearms Database.
And you can like type in a movie and you can see like every weapon that was used in it, which is neat.
Crazy.
Especially if even if you're a person that's like, I don't like guns are bad, whatever. If you're like a writer or something to that effect, like if you're somebody who writes and you see a gun in a movie that you think is neat and you want to throw that, like, you want to add that extra little bit of credibility to yourself, go ahead and try looking that up. But yeah, looking at John Wick, like, my God, look at CZs, Kimbers. I mean, like, there's so many nice guns in this.
Right.
And looking at them, like, they have still shots of them from the movies. So it's fun seeing that kind of thing. It's fun seeing like all the stuff that they used.
Yeah.
Oh, it was a Kimber Solo, little 9 mil.
Yep. See that's awesome.
With a little micro suppressor on
Yep.
it, which is extra work, by the way. That person had to put a threaded barrel on that, right?
Yep.
They had to put a threaded barrel on that or something to that effect and put it in the movie. You know,
that's awesome.
Their armor deserves a lot of deserves a huge pay bump because they do such a good job with it.
For sure.
And they've not killed anybody on set. So,
ooh.
Like Baldwin?
Yeah.
But, so, I will say this. If you ever want to use IMDb or whatever, you just said, like, even if you hate guns and you don't like guns, but you like action movies or you're a writer, and maybe you just need to describe, like, one shootout. Go there, look at those guns and see what you think. Like, go to a movie, you're like, oh, that was a cool looking gun. Or what does LAPD carry in this series or whatever? And go in there and look at it because I think it has TV series and stuff as well.
It has like everything. Yeah, if you ever see anything in a movie or TV show and you're like, oh, that was cool. I wonder what that was he was using. Yeah, you can look it up on there and it tells everything about it.
The other thing that's kind of funny is like Taron Butler, like some of these are like his actual Taron tactical like pistols and stuff like that. Which is like extra. Like,
he got a lot of promotion from that. Like everybody, after especially that first one, I remember everybody was want to have Terran tactical stuff. Like the mag extension base plates and stuff were like out of stock all the time.
Yeah, they were.
Everybody wanted those things.
Well, and it's funny because after John Wick, he's the same person. Keanu Reeves is not John Wick.
Keanu Reeves is John Wick. Is Neo.
Is Neo.
Is Tom Sanders.
Is Montana. What's his name in the
Bill and Ted?
No. Johnny Utah.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
From what's the movie with guy died from pancreatic cancer? Dirty Dancing guy. You're looking him up. He played an FBI agent. Point Break. Point Break is the movie. He plays the FBI. He plays Johnny Utah. After Keanu Reeves did that viral YouTube video that was filmed at Terran Tactical. Yeah. I've seen a ton of other actors who were doing it. There's a ton. Like I forgot who it was. There was a female actor. I forgot what her name was. She's huge. She did it. Like watching her do it was really cool. I've seen several other actors who've been out at like Terran Tactical.
I've seen a lot of them of Rogan going out there. Yeah. Too. Rogan's good friends with Terran as well, and he goes out there and shoots a bunch.
Probably not anymore because he's like in Austin or whatever. But yeah.
He's still good. There was a video the other day.
Oh, really?
Of him out there shooting, yeah.
Well, anyways, I've seen a bunch of other actors going there and doing this kind of training.
Yeah, because they saw it and they're like, that looks fun.
And I think people understand it, like, oh, maybe we need to step up our game, because before, a lot of what we saw from like combat footage or whatever was Hollywood. Like if you watch a World War II footage, it's hard to see like actual, like you see combat, right? We see guys standing up and shooting M1 Garands, and we see the pinging going out, and we see artillery, but it's all black and white and blurry, and it's hard to tell. People wear GoPros on their heads now. Yeah. Right? People wear GoPros on their heads fighting in Ukraine, Russia, and Iraq, and Afghanistan. Like we've seen that. And there's a lot of people, who fought in the global war on terror who if they enjoy action movies, they want to see something like realistic. They don't want to, they don't, right. They're like, that's stupid. Like, I don't like that. Like, yep. Even somebody who was just a cook could do better than that. Right.
And on top of that, John Wick with these movie series kind of almost set a standard, for action movie, gunplay and fighting and all that stuff. Like they kind of set a baseline that like a lot of people are, who are into action movies are going to compare them to this.
Yes.
So it's going to make that when something doesn't look good or is kind of really fake or whatever, it's going to make it look that much more obvious.
Well, I think of that. Have you seen The Terminal List yet?
Yes.
With Chris Pratt? Okay,
yeah.
So you've seen The Terminal List. Very, very similar, right? Right. Except we're not in this like fantasy world, which is kind of what this. I'm gonna be honest with you. John Wick's kind of a fantasy movie.
Yeah.
Right. It's kind of a fantasy world. It is New York City, but it's like a completely different thing. With like The Terminal List, the same as Jason Bourne, like, oh, this is Navy SEAL. This is an interesting thing. Yeah. But we see the same thing. We see cool look. I mean, they spend a lot of time on the weapons. They spend a lot of time on the weapons on that, and the action. was really well done because, you know, the people who are playing Navy SEALs really wanted to, you know, they have Navy SEALs working on the show and doing all that stuff.
Yeah.
And then you have, you know,
It was
even
based on the book who was written by a Navy SEAL.
he's a Navy SEAL himself, you
Yeah.
know, so you have to do that. And then you have like, what was that one movie before, the Men of Active Valor? That was like a movie. Remember that? That was every actor in it, like that was on the team, was an actual active duty or retired Navy SEAL.
Yeah.
And so people now that you can just go watch on YouTube, you can watch 3-gun competitions, you can watch people doing it. If people in the movies are handling weapons worse than Joe Blow, who has $1,300 to buy a Terran Tactical and go to a competition,
right?
If you're running weapons worse than them, the movie doesn't seem that good anymore.
And when you get like, you know, there's, you know, the rise of popularity and, you know, a lot of you know, gun personalities and stuff on, you know, YouTube or various other things. You've got things like T-Rex Arms, you know, Lucas Botkin on there, you know, maybe like Grand Thumb or something. But you can see these people that just seem like other normal people running and gunning and doing this type of stuff. And, you know, more and more people are like, well, shoot, I want to get into this. Like, this is like, and this is what real stuff looks like, at least.
Yeah, social media,
you know?
YouTube, be like, so we've seen that even with like, we're starting to see that with video games sometimes too, you know, like Escape from Tarkov, for example. That Escape from Tarkov is like an extremely brutal looter shooter.
It's equivalent of like a racing simulator, but for, like a looter shooter.
Yeah, because like you can really customize your guns. They have all these attachments, and you can make them look really cool. You can make them look like certain John Wick guns.
All replicas and based off real world equipment and stuff.
But the gunsmithing that you can do in there is so much beyond like any type of gunsmithing that you can do in like a Ghost Recon, a Call of Duty, or whatever. You know, like if there's a rail there, you can keep putting stuff on that. I've seen some people that have put like 20 lights on a rifle before because they just kept adding rails to it. Yeah. And there's just like this giant, and they turn it on and it's like the sun. It's like somebody with the sun and they're blinding whoever they're fighting.
Yeah. We need to play that some more.
Ooh,
maybe do a recording of a raid.
That could be a good co-op therapy. That could be a very good co-op therapy. It would just be us dying a lot.
Oh, yeah. For sure.
Hopefully you guys are cool with that. I mean, I've been on Twitch a couple times killing Twitch streamers, but
that's true.
Well, you know what? I want to go back before we run this too long. I do want to say that because I do consider this a fantasy series, you know, because if you built a Dungeons and Dragons or Cyberpunk or whatever, like you're really not that far off. Like just the way that the world building goes.
Right.
Like we have no idea who the president is. We don't care. We have no idea who's in the Senate. We don't care.
We don't even know what year it is.
We don't know what year it is. Right. All we know is there's like this really cool thing going on with.
I don't know if they even like mention that it's New York in there or not.
It might, because it's a Continental. I think maybe like the Continental in New York or whatever. Because he goes. He does go to like Casablanca,
that's right?
He goes to like, you know, Turkey and stuff.
About that.
But it really is like an alternate universe thing, and I think it's not no innocent people get killed. Yeah. We have all these working. The tokens, the little circular tokens that they use to like
the blood pack things.
Those are so neat. Like the little needle right there on it.
Yeah.
And all the blood fingerprints look really cool, like on the metal. Like they're not perfectly done.
Yeah.
Right. Like they're not like a perfect fingerprint because you wouldn't get
it wouldn't be. Yeah.
On metal. And I love the way that they do that. I think
attention to detail is really good in a lot of that stuff.
Very pretty. Very pretty. So the high table, just in general, and the whole, like, there's like a very Catholic-esque vibe to it as well, and I think that's kind of
indicating that there's like roots and origins of this society that date back, you know, hundreds and hundreds of years, kind of thing. It adds that sort of antiqueness to it.
And this is something for world builders, you know, as a wannabe writer, right? This is not John's book hour. I don't have a book based on John Wick. Maybe I could. But when you write books or when you write story, there is something that they say, show it, don't tell it, right? So there's part of like where I could be like, the weapon was weathered, right? Or I could say the weapon had scratches from I can make you see that it's weathered. I
in your
won't
mind's
tell you.
eye.
Yes,
as
exactly.
you're reading it and envisioning it. I see what you're saying.
So you show it to them, you don't tell it to them. And I think that's one thing that we've seen with this is that we do. It's implied that there's these roots that go back a long time. There was that guy in the desert who's like one of the leaders of the High Table, right? There's this entire world building. This thing did not happen overnight, and there are rules that have existed since John Wick was a kid, because even as a child, right?
Yeah, he was in this family.
He was in a family.
They were somehow, connected in this whole, secretive world.
So it has this, like, when you think of like a mafia movie or something like that, like the mafia came over and eventually became powerful, like Prohibition and that kind of thing. So we know that there's a time, 1910, that we're not going to see like a lot of mafia things, right? They're still probably in Sicily.
Yeah.
Right? So it's neat seeing this thing that's so deep rooted and has such like but we don't know about it, but we can tell that it does.
Yeah.
And that is good storytelling.
For sure. Yeah, that's I like the context on everything.
For an action movie, right? Where people are like, action movies don't have anything to it.
There are a ton of action movies that are just that it's just action, and oftentimes the story seems like a second thought, or they don't even hardly have any story at all. I mean, like, one of my best examples of that is like the Godzilla movies. That you're watching that for giant monsters fighting each other.
My son is, for sure.
Yeah,
my son is watching Godzilla. He wants to watch Godzilla all the time.
Because it's awesome.
It is.
But again, I'm never watching a Godzilla movie for the story.
I'm going to be 100% honest with you. The first newer one that they did that was had Bryan Cranston in it, where he's fighting. I forget the first one of like this new series of things.
The ones with Millie Bobby Brown in them.
I don't think that one had her in it.
Oh.
That one didn't have her. It had Bryan Cranston. She was there, but they like added her post facto.
Right.
It was the first one where his son was an Air Force pararescue man, and he was in Japan.
It's the revamp of Godzilla, for the new era.
He was in Japan, and his wife died in the thing, and he kept like. I actually kind of liked that story. I thought that was a decent story, and then when it got to the action, it was like a.
To clarify, me saying that wasn't saying that those weren't. I didn't like those stories or stuff, but like I'm not. When that movie comes out, that's not my initial reason for wanting to see it. If it has a good story or something, that's awesome. That's a bonus.
Oh, I know.
That's a bonus for me. But.
I know. I'm just talking because I just wanted to throw that out there. If you've like, well, maybe I don't want to just see it. That one does have a decent story.
It's worth a watch.
It's
definitely.
worth a watch. But really, my son's just there so he can go woo 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 and like blow his atomic breath on me. That's what he's into doing right now. He does I'll
charges it up.
I'll play wrestle with mommy, and then he'll like come in to save the day, and he'll pretend he's like Godzilla, and he'll like woo, 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 like make the sounds.
That's awesome.
And then shoot a laser beam at me, and then of course I've got to go flying.
Well, yeah, that's what happens when you get hit with an atomic laser beam.
Yeah, just wait till I come off the top rope with my tomahawk like King Kong.
I was gonna say, just go get a giant gorilla costume, and you just will be King Kong.
So. Most people don't watch action movies just for the story, but it's like this sprinkled in thing that's like extra to it.
Mm-hmm.
Taken, for example, right? Everybody liked the first Taken, but the Taken series failed. I think because they tried too hard. They didn't try hard enough, and then they tried too hard as well. Like they're like, let's make this a Liam Neeson thing. Oh, his kids got kidnapped. Like his wife and his ex-wife and kid got kidnapped or whatever.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh my God, I've already seen this one. I've already done this one. And imagine in the second one, if it was like, oh, John Wick's dog got killed again. Now he's got to go back. His pit bull got killed.
Find that guy.
His pit bull got killed.
They took his other car too. His just Lexus SUV.
God. Exactly. So that's what is good about that is that he still has his dog, right? The dog, us seeing the dog all the time is a reminder of some of the things that he lost beforehand. That the dog, like he had this past life that he had to give up, but he's still got a human side to him. And if we just showed back up and somebody shot his dog for the second time, you'd be like, man,
wasn't that like the whole first movie? Like we're gonna watch a whole nother 2 hours of him avenging a dog. Yeah,
and the action's good, but like there is something to say for having a good story. And one of the things that they do tell us about John Wick. Here's another thing when I say like show, don't tell. they tell us that John Wick is a bad boy. Bad boy.
There's a lot of people telling a lot of people that.
But we also see it.
Yeah.
You know, he talks about a pencil one time, and they talk about him doing impossible tasks. But that's really the only time, like, they say a whole lot more about it, because we see what he can do. Or like, oh, that's how he did the impossible task.
Well, and there's this whole kind of trope too, where they often don't have to explain or mention much about him, because just saying, oh, that's John Wick, that's enough to communicate to a lot of other people in the universe. They're like, oh, okay, like everyone just understands what that means and who he is. So there aren't many words needed.
No.
To share.
And that's good too. That's also good, because you know, you get that with Jason Bourne quite a bit. Like, you know, Jesus Christ is Jason Bourne. Like, you know, we've seen that's a meme for a reason. You're like, oh, Jesus Christ, that's Jason Bourne. And you get that, and then we see like why Jason Bourne's so cool, and that's the reason why those 3 movies. I'm not going to talk about the other one, but the Ultimatum and the Supremacy and Bourne, you know,
Identity,
Bourne Identity. Those were all really good movies.
The 5th one wasn't too bad either. The 4th one with Jeremy Renner was the one we don't talk about.
Yeah, I'm not going to talk about that.
That one doesn't exist. But then they did the final one, and that one wasn't too bad either, to wrap it all up. But yeah.
So I like that there's a lot of that, like, show, don't tell, but we see it. We see a lot of. We see it. We see
why he earned that reputation and the name, the Baba Yaga, and all that stuff.
Yeah, like, you know, going back to the crime syndicate, you know, like the first time I see that blood pact token, as soon as they opened up, I got it. I was like, oh, that's what that is. Yeah. That's what that is. That's really easy to remember.
Yeah, that didn't take any explanation. I mean, I think you know, he talks about it a little bit in the thing. This is, you know, you did this, and you gave me your word, kind of thing. So, but even before he started explaining it, so I was like, oh yeah, I get what that is. And you poke your finger, you put your thumbprint on there, and it's a contract.
Which, now that I think about it, is kind of like a show don't tell. They tell them like, this is what it's for. But the fact that there was like, because there's a lot of times like I'm gonna make you an offer you can't refuse.
Right.
On the day of my daughter's wedding. Right. You get that kind of thing, and it's just like there was like it's verbal only. The fact that we have this trinket, this symbolic meaning, you know, we have this symbolic thing that we can see and put it with it, I think is like an extra little cherry on top.
Oh yeah.
And then there's a bunch of them. We keep seeing them pop up, and I like seeing that too. I like it when it's not a one-off. You know, there's a lot of movies like for that one movie, it'll be a one-off. I think in the 3rd one they had those in it as well. Like, you think he goes, he shows one to them. He shows one
to Halle Berry's character.
That's just reinforcing that you have this whole cool thing going on. One of the things too, like cars. I know Keanu. I almost called him John Wick again. Keanu is like a huge motorcycle guy.
Think about the vehicles and stuff in this movie. Oh my gosh, yeah, he owns a motorcycle company. Like he made his own motorcycle company.
He loves them,
which is awesome.
The same thing that it was like talking about stunts. The same questionnaire. He was like, they're like, how did you get into riding bikes? He's like, by riding bikes, man.
Yeah,
like, you just get on a bike and you ride it.
Even to the point where, you know, he played Johnny Silverhand in that Cyberpunk game, and he helped make the motorcycles in the game.
Really? I did not know that.
Yeah, because he had a big input on how they made the motorcycles in the game, like how they drove and sounded and how they looked and all that stuff. Like, he had a part in all of that because
that's cool.
He owns a motorcycle thing.
That's like Henry Cavill, like trying to do like some Warhammer stuff,
exactly,
you know, or something. Like the fact that CD Projekt
motorcycles are one of the
CD Projekt Red being like having him already as an actor, in the video game. And then him like
realizing he has an expertise in motorcycles.
Yeah, why wouldn't you take full advantage of it? And the fact that he did help out. I mean, I'm sure he got paid money for it.
And again, that comes back to what you're talking about with Henry Cavill, that he has a passion for them.
Yes.
He loves them. Yeah, like he may not be, you know, the biggest into a video game or whatever, but like motorcycles, he's like, oh yeah, I'm all about motorcycles.
I love motorcycles.
And so, he had a lot of action in that. But yeah, so the vehicles in John Wick were all really nice. They had the old Mustang. That was his favorite there. I think there was what did he borrow? It was either Challenger or Charger or
there's a lot of American
Barracuda
muscle
or something.
There was a lot of American muscle.
Like I mentioned earlier, he had his 2 cars in his garage, were his old like fastback Mustang, and then just like a Lexus, you know, SUV, which is a nice SUV.
That makes a lot of sense.
But it was like a 2004 or something, so you could tell like, oh yeah, he like he's got his nice thing, but he
That-
drives an everyday vehicle.
That lends itself to him being like a character outside of the movies too. The fact that he's got his family car and he's got his fun car.
Exactly.
I mean, that's realistic. It's not as realistic when everybody's got here's my Lamborghini
Lamborghinis and Bugattis and all that stuff
right next to it. That's not very practical to take the kids to church, on Sunday.
No, not much trunk space.
There is not much trunk space. So the driving in that, like all those scenes, even the horse scene.
Oh yeah, the horse.
There's the horse scene.
Like riding a horse.
Riding a horse through Brooklyn, shooting
while people are on
guns.
motorcycles, hitting him with swords or batons and all this stuff. And he's fighting them off of a horse.
So neat, and he's on motorcycle several times.
You don't see much horse combat in a lot of things.
No, the King had some horse combat. Love that movie. We'll get on. That'll be like a whole topic later.
I guess in modern set times.
No, you don't.
Yeah.
No, you wouldn't. It would be silly to. But in this one, it worked. I don't think the horse died either.
I don't think so.
That's another reason why it's so, and a third time today, palatable. Is
There you go.
because
No more animals were harmed in the making of these films.
there was that one dog that got shot, but it had a bulletproof vest on or something like that, I think.
Oh yeah.
But it wasn't John Wick's dog.
No.
It was
It didn't matter though. They still killed everybody.
It was still Halle. It was Halle Berry's Genesis, right?
Yeah.
It was her Genesis because it was her dog. It's like, oh, don't do that. We know what happened in the first one.
Yeah.
But that's not what it was all about.
Yeah.
And when I watched the first one, I was like, oh, this is interesting. It's like an interesting world, interesting thing going on. But once they start building on that, it really turns into its own franchise. Like you could write spin-offs of that. You could write early things from the High Table. You could always, there are so many things you could add to that to like, it's going to become its own set piece,
Yeah. For sure. So yeah, for all those reasons, those John Wick movies definitely skyrocketed up my list of favorite movies.
And it's a reason why we geek out about them is because when you have things that people geek out about in real life and you bring them into something like an action movie, which people also geek out about.
A piece of media, TV show, movies, video games.
We're just adding more to it. When you're a fan, if you're a fan of Terran Tactical and you see a Terran Tactical gun in the cool shitty movie, right? That just makes you want to watch it more. And it's a smart thing to do. And people should think about that as they're going forward and doing things like that. And we should also be nice to Keanu Reeves
because we know he's nice to everybody.
He's a nice guy. And we should all try to be like Keanu Reeves and be nice to people, donating money to charity left and right.
Yeah.
He's giving up his bus seats, on the subway seats. Have you ever seen that?
Yes, I have seen that. Again, an all-around great dude.
Yeah.
Excellent actor. Last week we talked about The Matrix. He killed it in that. He's killing it in John Wick.
Yeah.
He's definitely one of my favorite actors.
I would like to see him join our crew on Patreon.
Ooh, yeah. That would be amazing.
He could stow away for just $12 a year. That's $1 a month and get access
$1 a month. You can help fund our mission here.
Fund our mission.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be gold coins.
Nope.
It can be just regular money.
Yeah.
Whatever denomination though. But basically, if you find value in what we're doing here at the Geek ETC podcast, if you find any value in things we're talking about, entertainment, then you can give back some value and help support the show.
Yeah, we would love it. We'd love to have you as members of the crew. And of course, through Patreon, you're just not throwing your money away. We plan on having several things for our patrons.
Oh, yeah.
So that they can.
There'll be lots of exclusive content popping up there.
Possibly exclusive merch because our logo is dope and I want to put some stuff on it.
Oh, for sure.
And what else? Give us a follow on our social media pages. The Geek ETC podcast
on Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube.
That's right. Yeah. Watch our shorts, listen to our show.
Yeah, we've got the podcast available up on YouTube as well. If you don't want to, if you're not into Apple Podcasts or Spotify or any of that stuff, you're a big YouTube person.
You can even listen to it on our website. Josh, what's our website?
GeekETCpod.com.
And Josh goes through the trouble of making show notes. So if there's anything that we talk about that you want to click on, you can click on a little link and you'll go to a page that...
Yeah, it'll often open up like a Wikipedia page about whatever it was we happen to mention in that episode. There's links to all the kind of major topics that we talk about underneath in each episode page on the website.
So, hey, visit our website, visit our social media pages. Main thing is you just keep listening. And honestly, remember, geeks fight better together. Form your own high table, keep your friends close, and
even if that fighting is, hand-to-hand combat or, some crazy run and gun gunplay. Either way, whatever method you decide to choose, always remember to keep geeking out.